traveled for 12 plus hours to be here yesterday. Okay, they kept rescheduling the flights. I said, now y'all gonna get me on a flight because I'm going to Jamaica, okay? I'm so excited to be here. Can you give yourselves a round of applause? Because the energy that I have felt since we stepped into the building today has just been beautiful. I said, you can tell that this is a group of women who are doing the work, but this is real community. So please, round of applause to one of another. I want to give a huge shout out to the organizers for inviting me out. This is my first time speaking for Woman Ignite, and I'm excited. I was excited from the moment that they gave me the theme of this year. And the theme of the conference this year is Elevate. And it reminded me of my word of the year for 2024. So 2024, every year I have a word that guides my work for the year. And the theme for 2024 was ascension. And I'm gonna tell y'all how I got that word. But first, I wanna kind of lay the groundwork for what we're gonna do here today. As you guys know, I am a mental health therapist, licensed. I've been practicing for over 10 years at this point. And today I'm gonna have a conversation with you guys about what it means to elevate, what to expect when we talk about having a year of elevation. And then I'm going to give you guys the floor. Most of you know me from Instagram, and on Instagram I do what? Answer questions. I have a national tour called Heart Talks, where I travel around the country, and 2026 will be worldwide, where I'm traveling the world, talking to my tribe, answering their questions. And so today I'm gonna give you guys that same opportunity. So as I'm speaking, if something comes up for you, write it down because we will come back to it. Sound good? All right. So back in the day, I went to sleep and I had a dream. Anybody here have some crazy dreams? Yeah, I'm one who has very crazy dreams. And I went to sleep and I woke up in my dream. I'm in the airport and I'm racing through the airport with a lot of anxiety because I'm about to miss my flight. And as I'm running through the airport, I'm pushing a grocery cart basket. Don't ask me why I had a grocery cart basket in the airport. This is a dream. So I'm pushing this basket and I'm running to get to the gate. And when I get to the gate at the airport, they're getting ready to close the gates on me. And they're like, hey, the plane is about to go. You don't have time to check anything. You got to get on this flight and you got to leave. And I remember being frantic with the stewardess. I was like, but I got my stuff. And she's like, what stuff do you have? And this was the first time in the dream that I actually looked at what I was pushing in the cart. And when I looked in the grocery cart, there were all these random objects. So there were I remember fitted caps being in the cart. And I don't wear caps. And I was like, why is there caps there? And there was caps and there was containers and there was just all this random stuff in this grocery cart. And so I looked at the cart and I looked at her and I looked at the cart and I looked at her again and I made a decision. I said, I guess I'm gonna get on this plane without my stuff. And I got on this plane without knowing where the plane was going, without knowing how long I would be in the air. I got on this plane, and what do planes do? Ascend. 2024 was my year of ascension, where myself and my community, my career, it ascended in so many different ways. But ascension does not mean that you won't have to leave some things. As a therapist, one of the perpetual conversations that I have with my clients is not about healing, it's about grief. Because in order for you to walk into the next phase of your life, in order for you to ascend and elevate this year, it's going to be required that you leave something. And with all things that we leave, there is this grief that comes with what I just lost. So I wanted to prepare you guys. I cannot prepare you for a year of elevation without preparing you for the inevitable. And what's inevitable is that as you ascend, you are going to be losing some things along the way. Am I the only one who's lost some stuff along the way? How do we react and respond when we lose some stuff? Well, I went to bed. I stayed there for a little bit. Some of us get angry. How about the ones who shut down? This takes me to my first point. In your year of elevation, one of the things that you will have to release is the performance aspect of healing. Over the years, I am a middle child of 5 children. My mother is a single mother. And as the middle child, I'm the rebellious one. Okay, I'm gonna have my way, I'm gonna like it my way, I'm gonna do what I wanna do, right? But I followed the rules. I was a rule follower, okay? But I was also the strong one. And so in my family, I was, at a very early age, the fixer. Raise your hand if you're the fixer in the family. When something goes wrong, who phone they calling? Y'all ain't learned how to turn it off yet? I learned do not disturb quickly, okay? But because I had this idea that I was the fixer and I was the one that they come to, somewhere along the way, I stripped myself of my own ability to be hurt. Because now when I'm struggling, who did I call? Because I'm the one who's supposed to have it all together. You're the strong one. And so now what you see is that there's this performance aspect of healing. When people ask you how you're doing, you don't tell the truth. You smile. I'm okay, girl. Blessed and highly favored. You don't feel blessed, but you say it. Somewhere along the way, we stop telling the truth about where we are, which robs us of the ability, one, to be taken care of by our own community. We start faking and performing. When you perform, it's inevitable that at some point you're going to crash. Because in order for me to keep performing and to keep my mask up, what's happening behind the scenes is I'm burning out. You're running out of your quick fixes. You know the things you used to do that worked and now they no longer work? There's a reason for that. The Band-Aids are not going to fix what's hurting you. In order for you to elevate, this is the season where I learned that it's okay for me to say that I'm brilliant, I'm beautiful, I'm strong, and I'm recovering. Because if we're being honest, there were some things that happened last year that I'm not over. There are some people that disappointed me that I haven't forgiven them yet. If we're being honest, it isn't a pretty picture. Being a therapist over 10 plus years, I have learned that most people are not pretty pictures. I don't care how good we look. Okay, the pixie is cute. But there's still parts of me that are still healing in progress. I learned the beauty of duality. That I could be this magnificent, beautiful person, got her stuff together, she the one, and she's still in progress. This was a tall order because it meant that I had to train everybody else around me that I was not Mrs. Fix-It anymore. How well do we say no? Y'all still learning? Okay, you can say no. You could say, nuh-uh. You could say, not today. You could say, absolutely not. You could say, I ain't got it. There's a lot of different ways you could say no. I had to learn that telling people no didn't make me a bad person. Clap. Because for some of you, a lot of your relationships are dependent upon you not knowing who you are. And that brings me into my identity. In order for us to elevate, there are parts of your identity that cannot go this year. When I was in that dream, boarding, because listen, when I had that dream, I woke up and I was like, all right, God, now listen. What was that about? Because I had to really sit down and I had to name what was in that grocery cart. What was it in that cart that is not allowed to go with me in this next season of my life. Because keep in mind, everything in my life was ascending. My world tour was ascending. My career was ascending. That was my first year being on syndicated TV. I was ascending. But what happens when you ascend, but you keep the old identity? What happens when you get promoted and you still keep the mindset of the worker? You can't lead and be on the front line at the same time. Who are you going to be? What I love about my job is I help you figure out who you want to be. In the year that you guys will be elevating, your identity will come into question. Are you going to continue to be the person who doesn't know how to implement and keep your boundaries? Better question. Are you ready to abandon the identity that you adopted so that you could survive? I have an amazing community called the Daily Fix. Any Daily Fix members in here? I love my Daily Fix community. We meet every morning at 8:30 in the morning. They are very familiar with what I call my gladiator season. So I left my mother's home at 16. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of things that took place between 16 and now. And there was a piece of that story that I call my gladiator season. Because this was the part of my story where I was out on my own and there was no one to protect me, so who was going to do it? And what's the best way we know how to protect ourselves? Anger. This was angry Brittainy season. Okay, now listen, I didn't fool with nobody. But if you fooled with me, you was gonna have a bad day that day. That's all I have to say. But angry Brittainy was, one, upset because life hadn't gone the way that I thought it should have gone for me. I was mad because I was 16 and having to take care of myself. I was mad because I felt like my peers were more ahead than I was and I had to fight for everything that I got. I felt like I had been robbed. Anybody ever felt like you got robbed? And everybody ever felt like just life wasn't fair? Anybody ever felt unprotected? And when we don't feel protected, we create these walls to keep the rest of the world out. And the best way that I knew how to do that was with anger. No one could touch me. And as long as no one could touch me, I couldn't get hurt, but I also couldn't connect. So I was going through my life on an island of Brittainy, and we were good, and we were hey, okay, I went to college, made straight A's, worked 2 jobs while I was in college full time. The gladiator equipped me to do the hard stuff to be successful. But what happens when I'm no longer in a season of survival? What happens to the gladiator then? Where the gladiator was helping me at one point, it became destructive the next. Because now you're in a season where you want connection, but you don't know how to maintain your relationships. Now you're in a season where you want community, but you got trust issues. Now you're in a season where you have to lead with compassion, but your anger keeps running people away. In order for you to elevate, you're going to have to abandon parts of your personality that you think are really you. But these are the parts of you that you adopted so that you could survive the hard stuff. But that only works if you plan on keeping a hard life. And I heard y'all wanted a soft life, right? Who wants a soft life? Y'all are hilarious. Getting the soft life, becoming someone who has a gentler approach to life, it meant that, one, I had to reframe what I saw as a threat. But it also meant that I had to see myself correctly. Brittainy, you're not that 16-year-old little girl looking for a home anymore. You have safety within yourself. You've learned how to use your voice. You've learned how to let people in. Now you have to trust what you've built. And when I say what I built, I'm talking about what I built inside of me. This is where I learned how to trust and create friendships This is where I learned how to have partnerships. This is where I learned how to be a leader out of compassion and kindness and not hardness and anger. This is where the most influential part of me was born. People follow me not because I do these amazing things. I simply show them a pathway to being protected without the armor. I am protected now without all the armor that I used to have. And I walk through this world because I'm clear about who I am. So before we get excited about the elevation, I want you to ask yourself a hard question. What parts of me am I willing to release so that I can elevate? And if you're wondering about what parts those are, all you got to do is look at the area of your life that has the most conflict. And that's where you will find your armor of protection. Make sense? How we feeling? Feeling good? Y'all got y'all brains thinking? All right, DJ. When I go on tour, there's a part of my show that as a therapist, when you go see a therapist, before you sit down and talk to them, they have you sign a form that says, this is your written consent. But when I do my shows, I can't sit down with all y'all and do a written consent. So I always do a call and response because the beautiful part of who I am and what I've been equipped to do, I always tell people my degree gave me the educational background to be who I am and do what I do. But my life experience qualified me to be who I am and do what I do, right? I have one call for you before we go into our questions. The same way I tell my tribe, in 10 years, okay, I have worked on almost every inpatient ward in Houston, Texas. I have worked at MD Anderson helping people cope with end of life. I have worked with PTSD, with combats recovering from PTSD and combat trauma. In 10 plus years of what I have done, there's not much I haven't heard. There's not much that can shock me at this point. But there's also nothing that I will judge you for. This moment that I'm ushering us into right now is a moment of vulnerability. Anytime I go somewhere to speak, I'm not coming because I want your pretty stuff. I'm not coming because I want you to ask me the stuff that sounds cute or is easy. I'm coming because I know what it's like to be in places where you are confused, you are in doubt, you are afraid, and you need someone to help you make your way through the ugliness in front of you. I'm here for the stuff that you don't talk about. In order for us to do that, I need your consent and permission. I need your permission to crack you open and go straight to your heart with the places that you haven't trusted anybody with. I'm asking that you trust me today. I love what I do, and I believe I have been equipped to do it in a way that is easy for people to grasp and understand. So if you are on board with what's about to happen, I want to hear you say, I'm in it. Now that wasn't everybody. You see what I'm saying? It was you, but it wasn't everybody. I need full consent. If you're in a place where you're ready to ask yourself the hard questions and hear some hard answers, I need you to say, I'm in it. Now that was better, but I still don't think that was everybody. Okay, all right. If you're in a place where you know 2026 is your year to elevate and you're not going to be held down by everything that was against you in 2025, let me hear you say, I'm in it. I'm in it. All right, that's what I'm talking about. They yelled at me a little bit. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right, I want to hop into our first question. If you have your question, raise your hand. If you already have your question, I see someone in the back for our mic runners. Okay, DJ, cut the music for me. We're going to bring it back in a minute. All righty, ma'am. Tell me your name, where you're from, and your question.
I'm Ramona Donaldson. I'm from Kingston. I live here in Kingston. And I want to know, I recently experienced betrayal from my father, where I felt taken advantage of. And my question is, how do you trust men when you have been betrayed by the man that should love you the most?
Yeah, very good. Can anybody identify with that? Okay. Who would say, if we're being totally honest, I struggle to trust men? Yeah. And raise your hand if you've been betrayed by men. Okay. We don't have to tell the story. Okay, very good. And thank you for your question. So two things happened in your question. First and foremost is an overgeneralization, right? What you said was, my father hurt me and betrayed me. Now I don't trust any men. That's what we call an overgeneralization, where something has happened to me and then I apply that as a rule to every other area of my life. So if I go to the doctor and he was a bad doctor, I leave out of that and I say all doctors are bad. That's an overgeneralization. That's harmful because it's going to skew the way that I view my life. Because if I believe all doctors are bad, do I go back to the doctor? No. Could that hurt me in the future? Absolutely. So if I have been hurt by my father and I formulate the idea that all men are bad, could that hurt me in my future? Do we need men? Very good. That was a test question. I was waiting to see what was going to happen. I was like, y'all done brought me to the wrong conference. So here's what we have to deal with, right? The overgeneralization is a coping skill for protection. My father hurt me, therefore all men are bad, means I don't have to do any work to learn how to trust again. So it's a coping skill that protects me from moving forward. But what has to be dealt with is the betrayal from my father. And what you have to remember, especially when we talk about dealing with our parents, we're not dealing with them most times. When we are hurt by them, it's not the 40-year-old version of you that's hurt. It's the 8-year-old in you that was hurt, that says, how could my daddy do me this way? What you're going to have to do is first sit down with yourself to really understand, what is that 8-year-old saying? Why did the betrayal, what was the betrayal, and why did the betrayal hurt so bad? Is it that he let me down, he disappointed me, he didn't protect me? What was that betrayal? And has there been patterns of this betrayal before? Because most times with parents, especially for you to jump to the overgeneralization so quickly, this is probably not his first time betraying you. But you're just at a point where you're done making excuses for the betray. So this is where your level of honesty with self is going to have to say, you know what? I know this hurts, but you're used to seeing this behavior from them. What was it about you that you didn't hold them accountable sooner? Why didn't you protect yourself sooner? Why didn't I set boundaries sooner when I knew who they were? And that's a conversation that you have with your 8-year-old you, because 8-year-old says, that's my daddy, I love them. Why would I hold them accountable? Why would I put up boundaries? But self-governance says that I can't allow my 8-year-old to make decisions because that's how we get hurt. So the same way I wouldn't let my toddler drive my car, my toddler doesn't get to set boundaries, even if it's with my parents. So definitely look at the pattern that has gone on between you and your father. Because there may be some conversations that need to be had in order for you to, one, forgive him for this betrayal, and to create some type of closure with who he is. Mind you, nothing in what I just said that he needed to change his behavior. Why not? Why do you think I didn't focus on changing his behavior? You don't control that. You will go to his grave waiting on him to change. But what I can do is say, hey, Dad, I have created a new standard of living, whatever that standard is. And in order for us to have a close connection, these things make me feel safe and these things don't. Your father now gets to decide if he wants to live up to that standard. But your number one job is always protection. So can you have a relationship with him? Absolutely, but there's going to be a level of honesty with yourself about who he's been and who he is and not who you want him to be. And then based on who I know him to be, what boundaries do I need in order for this to be a healthy relationship? Make sense? Okay. Most of our relationships, especially with our parents, become unhealthy or are unhealthy, not necessarily because they be doing crazy stuff, but it's because I'm holding them hostage to who I expect them to be, right? I left my mother's house at 16 because by right, there were mistakes that were made, but I left because I didn't want to ask her to be different anymore. I decided that I would go out and create a life on my own for myself. I don't recommend it to everybody. It was a hard life. Right? But I had learned when I got into college, because I didn't talk to her for a while. It wasn't until I got into my freshman year of college that I really started to understand that my mother was a woman before she was my mother. And now that I'm in college and I'm making a lot of bad decisions and I'm dating people that I probably should have never dated, I won't never tell you that I dated. If they bring it up, if they show a picture, I'm telling you right now, it's AI. It wasn't me. But I had to have compassion for her because I realized that I was no better than she was. The only difference is I didn't have 5 kids to judge me for it. So I had compassion for her journey while also respecting who I am to say, hey, I have empathy for you, but you don't get to talk to me like that. I have empathy for you, but there are boundaries about how I live my life over here, right? But I had to accept her for who she was and stop judging her for who she didn't, what marks she didn't make. And I think even having compassion for the fact that our parents most times had a lot less resources than we had. And again, having compassion doesn't mean access. So I can have compassion for the fact that you had a hard life and, you know, they told us all the trauma stories, okay? But that doesn't mean that we can be in relationship if you're not willing to be a healthy part of the relationship. And the only person who can reinforce that standard is you. Make sense? Very good. Who has the next question? I see one at the very back. They got to bring you a mic. I can't hear nothing.
Yeah, afternoon, everybody. What do you do when it's your Heavenly Father that's hurting you and you don't like it? Do you go to counseling? You throw tantrums? You say, okay, I'm not going back to church. You don't understand what's happening. And he's saying, I'm pruning you because I need this to come from you. It's in St. John chapter 5, verse 2. And so we blame the person whose relationship just got broken up, but it's God who is doing all these things. How do you say that to a woman to understand and cope?
Can you frame the question for me from your own personal experience? Who are we talking about?
Me.
Okay, so you're upset with God because?
Yeah, and I didn't understand from 2025, I had one situation keep repeating itself until just last week. And I said, I'm not going back to church. I'm upset. You're not telling me what's happening, God. And I don't understand what's happening until just last week. He said, I have you on the potter's wheel, and he wants to get something from you. But before, I didn't understand where I was. Mm-hmm. So, women, men, we go through this experience with God, and we need to interpret it correctly.
Yes. Yeah. I love that question. Give her a round of applause. A whole round of applause. That was probably the realest question that can be asked. Because that's a question that's not allowed in most church homes. What do you do when God disappoints you? What do you do when it feels like he's not protecting you? What do you do when you've been praying, God, save me from this, and it looks like all the weapons are forming and prospering? And then what do you do when you say, I'm tired of saying I'm grateful for it? That's a real conversation. I had that conversation with God. I want to say 2022, I went through a season in my life, I call it the season of deficit. Now, by this point in my life, I'm big and grown, okay? Okay, bills on auto pay, I ain't struggling. My career is built, I'm grounded, foundation, I'm in a good place. And in a matter of maybe a year, it felt like me and Job, like my life was the book of Job. Okay? And I tell people, I lost everything except for my best friends. Everything. Now, this is not supposed to happen to people like me. I'm a mental health therapist. I live my life helping people. All I do is help other people. I make the right decisions. I ain't out here being crazy. And I had to confront what I call the checklist. Anybody have a checklist? Where you did all the right things. You did everything right. And yet somehow you still came up short. And all the dominoes that I had set up for my life crumbled. And I was angry. I didn't want to talk to God. I was like, I ain't praying. No, you can't explain this one. I did everything I was supposed to do. I don't get why this is happening. And depending on what church home you belong to, you may or may not have a place where you can actually be vocal about the fact that I'm angry with God. And here's what I love about God. God don't care about you being mad. He ain't moved by you having an attitude. Because the God that I know and the God I have a relationship, that even when I was unwilling to be a participant in my process, he was still patient and kind and loving. And in the midst of me, what looked like I was losing everything, keep in mind, if you want to phrase this, so the year of ascension I told you guys about, where everything went up, the year before that was the year of deficit. I lost everything. And then in the next following year, when he gave me the word ascension, I was like, ascension where? Because I ain't got nothing. What I know now, because first of all, understand that clarity comes in retrospect, not in the middle of the transition. What I know now on the other side is that, one, I was being detached from everything that I didn't need. I had built a whole different business that had nothing to do with what I do today. And I lost that entire business because God knew that's your plan B, and I don't want you to have a plan B with where you're about to go. For many of us, we lose things because they were things that we were settling for in the first place. They were things that we were trying to make do with instead of accepting that I can have more and I have access to more. So sometimes the things that we're crying about, kicking and screaming, because you tried to make a fix happen. You got impatient and you said, well, this marriage will do. You got impatient and you said, this job will do. And so we accepted something because it was good, not because it was right. So that entire year, I was being separated from everything that was not supposed to be attached to me. And it sucked. It hurt. And I questioned myself, Brittainy, how did we fail? And I think we have to have another conversation about our relationship with shame. Because when I fail, it feels like I'm the failure. I did something wrong. Surely I made a bad decision. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm just not the one who's supposed to get married. We make the failure about us. I would tell you, to answer your questions, to keep having conversations with God. Because one, only He knows when that season of your life is over. Only He knows how to get you through it. But I will also tell you this. In the same year that everything was falling off of me and I was disconnecting from everything, that was the same year I had viral video after viral video after viral video, speaking requests, engagements, and it's all coming in. And I'm like, ugh. Don't you see my life is falling apart? Because when things are not working, we give more energy to what's broken than what's actually working for us. So even when things are broken, I tell people, don't look at what's breaking. Look in that same sentence at what's actually coming together. Because that's what's next for you. Have a better relationship with grief. That season taught me nothing belongs to me. Nothing. Because as much as energy I put into building something, it could be gone like that. I have less attachment to what I build in this world, and this is where my life became about what I wanted to feel. Because I was a very type A, I could build things overnight. That was who I was before. But that meant that I was always in grinding mode. And life was always urgent. Everything was urgent. I had to get everything done. And I didn't like that. This version of me, listen, certain things could be on fire. And I'll be like, hey, sometimes things just burn down. I don't know. But I've learned that I can survive losing things as well. So now when relationships break down, now when people say, hey, I don't think we should be friends, now when the contract didn't come through, I can tolerate losing things without falling apart because I've lost it all before. And whatever I lost, I have gotten it back tripled by now. So in this season, talk to God, because I promise you, He don't care about you being angry. And He has a plan for your recovery. Wait for that plan. Make sense? Very good. That was a good question, because that's a real question. I love challenging that, because the truth is that in a real relationship with God, every day is not hunky-dory. That's not a real relationship. That's what we call false positivity. And false positivity is a coping skill, but it doesn't get you through the hard winters. It works in summer. God is great. God is good. He don't make no mistakes. But I felt like that was a mistake, though, over there. That what happened? Do I even have a relationship with Him that can withstand my questions? That's a relationship. And when I have questions and I go to Him with my questions, He comes back with answers. That's a relationship. But don't allow your fear of feeling your emotions stop you from having a relationship with Him. Can I feel my grief enough to go to my Father and say, Daddy, that actually really hurt me. I didn't want to lose that. Without thinking it makes me a bad Christian. I'd rather have a relationship with Him than be a good Christian. Make sense? Very good. Give me another question. I see some over here. I know y'all got neglected. Do we have a mic on this side? Oh, there we go.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
I am Carrie Tape, and I'm from Kingston. And my question is, how do you love someone and they don't want you to love them? So,
Who are you referring to?
I had a best friend. I met her when I was 16. I'm 64. And
Put the mic in the other hand. I'm holding it.
And she got sick, and she was under a lot of mental strain. And every good thing, every love that you gave her is because I want something. She said, so I can't be her friend without wanting something. So how do you love someone but love them the way they want to be loved and not the way you want to love them? How do you do that?
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you said that your friend, you tried to be a part of her life and to take care of her because she got sick, but she says that she doesn't want to be your friend because you ask for things or you want something in return anytime you give her something. So she feels like this is a conditional relationship. Yeah, give her the mic back.
Yes, so how would I know she wants to go to the doctor? She would have to tell me. I'm not a mind reader.
No, she doesn't. Do you know she's sick?
She had a nervous breakdown.
Okay.
So she tells me, so I go to visit her.
Yeah.
And then she tells me, I have to go to the doctor tomorrow. It's at 10 o'clock. This. So I'm silent and I don't offer. And then she says, how am I going to get to the doctor? Da. So I said, I could take you and I have something to do. I'll come back. And then another friend of ours comes. This is just one.
Yep.
This is somebody I've known for 40 years. And the other friend says, it's like you're too possessive. You're all up in her face. You're always there. How do you not? I can only know who to love one way.
So this is a hard one, right? Because at the core of what she's speaking about is a breakdown in friendship where, you know, when COVID happened and we all had to go in our homes and there were people that you'd never talk to after that? She said, that was a loud yes. Most times we don't realize that the relationships that we have are surface level or conditional until life happens, right? What you're describing, just in the doctor analogy, the reason why I said that she doesn't have to is because what we forget sometimes is that relationships are supposed to be reciprocal and reciprocated. And a part of being in a relationship is that anticipating the needs of the people around me. If I have to always tell you this is how I want to be loved, that is exhausting. At some point, if you're in relationship with me, you will observe, Brittainy, you go to the gym every day. You want me to go with you, right? I wouldn't have to always offer or ask, do you want to be a part of my life? Now, 9 times out of 10, you guys have probably been in this pattern of her offering and you saying yes, obliging, but it could be that in this season, especially when I don't feel well, I don't want to be the one informing you of how to be a good friend to me. When I need to be poured into, I don't want to tell you how to pour. Show up to the best of your ability, right? As a friend. And this is why when sickness happens, babies come, friendships can be strained because we don't know how to reciprocate what's being given in the relationship. So if you have a friend, and this is why, because even in my friend group, we're all givers, right? It's when we go out to eat, we fight over who's paying the check. Okay, we got to tell the person at the restaurant, hey, I'm paying. Because we will fight over it, right? But we've made it a pact to make sure that we are all pouring into each other, and it's not one person pouring because we're friends, right? if she feels like the relationship is conditional, what I would tell you to do is to start offering to her whatever it is that you have to give as a friend. Hey, would you like me to pick up some? I'm at the grocery store today. Do you need me to pick up some groceries for you? Hey, I'm heading to that side of town. Would you like to go? Especially if I know you're struggling right now, right? And even if I don't know how to help, because sometimes you can have friends who are going through depression or anxiety and you don't know how to help, it's to simply say, hey, I know you're going through a rough time. I'm not sure how to support you. Is there anything I can do this week that'll make you happy? Right? I did that with my friend who had a baby. I was like, hey, I know this baby is taking over everything right now. I ain't got one of those. So just what you need, right? But I'm not waiting on her to come and say, Brittainy, I'm so tired. Could you do? I know there's a need, so I'm going to volunteer to meet the need. That's being a good friend. Does that make sense? So I would say to focus less on how hurt your feelings are right now. Focus more on this is an opportunity for us to go deeper into our friendship. How can I show up and be a better friend? Make sense? When our friends hurt our feelings, especially if these are people that you really care about, and I'm saying this for women relationships, we go on defense so quickly without trying to understand why our friend did or said what they said. Yes, it may hurt your feeling to hear that feedback, but was there any truth in what they said? Could I be a better friend? Have I been selfish? And in women relationships, it's so easy to be selfish because we're all givers. And unfortunately, it's not until something heavy happens that you find out who your real friends are. Make sense? All right, we got time for one more question.
Okay, this is Anonymous.
Anonymous.
Yes. How do you handle a situation where after being raped at 10 years old and your father wanted to kill the man who raped you, then afterwards your father started molesting you? Now being married, I don't like sex and it has affected my marriage.
Read the last part for me.
I don't like sex and it has affected my marriage.
So this is a question that recovery means that you have to be connected with a mental health professional, right? When we talk about trauma, so this is not just regular trauma. This is what we call complex trauma. Complex trauma is when I have multiple traumas that have compounded. When I have multiple traumas that have compounded, it's like trying to make your way through a maze, because trauma affects the way that I view the world. It affects the way I view myself. And it's not easy for me to make my way through that maze by myself. So you definitely need a trauma-informed therapist. Any therapist will not do for this situation. It has to be a trauma-informed therapist. And when you're looking for a therapist, it's a certificate. It's a trauma-informed certificate that they will have, because they're going to have the tools available to help you unpack each layer of trauma. In the meantime, dealing with your marriage is sticky, right? Because you have to be able to prioritize your own healing and recovery while also being responsible for my partner's needs in relationship. What I would encourage you to do is, first and foremost, try to have this conversation with your husband as much as possible that you can. And this is where I say create agreements. While I'm working on myself and my trauma, this is my ceiling, right? So this is how far I can go. This is where I feel comfortable. This is where I feel safe. Within this ceiling, is there anything I can do to meet a need for you? Because the need is not always sex. Sometimes the need is more quality time. Sometimes the need is more talking. Sometimes the need is just hanging out together. Whatever the need is. And somewhere in I'm thinking of a pie chart, carve out a piece that's just for him, because I have to water the marriage while I'm also working on myself. Is this easy? Absolutely not. So again, therapy. And I would say your husband should be in therapy, because he has to understand what it means to love a woman with this much trauma. And this is not a man thing, it's not a woman thing. For most people, they can't fathom what happens to you when you go through that much trauma. So your husband being in therapy will help him have a better understanding of how to navigate your triggers, stress responses, and how to make things more comfortable to where intimacy can be introduced into the relationship in a different way. but that's a very heavy question for sure. And I really want you to get hooked up with a trauma-informed therapist. Does everybody in the room have a therapist? Raise your hand if you got a therapist. Okay. We got to work on these numbers. I'm worried. Who knows that you don't go to therapy just because something's wrong? Therapy is needed before something goes wrong, so that when something does go wrong, I have tools from therapy that help me deal with it. And I always say therapy is like where you go to figure out, oh, I didn't even know that I had that blind spot. I'm selfish. I didn't know I was selfish. Yeah, just a little bit, right? So here's what I want us to do. Who here today has heard me say something that you feel like, okay, that's something I can use? Who here has heard me say something that you want to take back to your relationships and in your life? Very good. I never end any of my segments without incorporating a community aspect, okay? So what I want us to do, I want us to stand up. It's a lot of y'all. DJ, I want you to find a partner. Just one partner. Or three, because it's a lot of y'all, so y'all could do it together. Okay. Okay, ladies, I want you to listen to me. I remember when I was in graduate school and I was still under supervision, my supervisor asked me what was my most impactful case of the year. And so I was telling him about a veteran of mine that I was working with. And I told him that that was probably one of the most triggering clients I had when I was in school. Because, and y'all do know y'all therapists get triggered, right? So I'm working with this veteran on inpatient, and he goes, I gave him the assignment that I give a lot of my clients, and I told him to write down what he wanted for his future. And so he left, and he comes back, and he brings me this one sentence that says, I don't care. And I said, oh, okay, well, go back and write it again. Veterans are difficult, y'all. I've learned this is. So he goes back and he comes back again. I said, so what do you want for your future? And he wrote a sentence, and it was something like, oh, I'm going to have, a white picket fence and daisies and, sunflowers. So now he's being sarcastic. I said, okay, well, go back and write it again. He goes back. He comes back again, and this time he's like, oh, well, I'm going to be a barber, and I'm going to, raise my kids. And I said, well, this is better, but I think there's more. Go back and do it again. So this is our fourth time. He comes back to me, and it was at the end of the day. I'm getting ready to go home, and he hands me the paper, and the paper's blank. And at this time, I'm frustrated. I'm like, no, I done told you. And I look at him, and he has tears in his eyes. And I said, what is this? And he said, Miss Brittainy, please don't make me write this. And I was like, why don't you want to write this? He said, because I've been hurt for so long, I don't know how to hope for a future anymore. It took 4 times for him to finally tell me the truth. That's what we do with our lives. We get these blanketed answers, things that look good, things that sound good, and we never get down to the truth of what we're afraid of. This particular person had been through so much trauma in their life as a kid and then as an adult, and here I am telling him to hope for a future, and he was afraid to just hope for something good. The season of elevation is going to require that your hope be in the right place. This season of elevation requires that we're not hoping for things externally to prove to us who we are. I'm hoping for the internal strength to know, like I know who I am. I'm not guessing about this thing anymore. When he finally wrote his page to me, it was the most beautiful hope and desire that he had for himself and his kids, and he read it to me in tears. Today, I want you with your partner, tell your partner what you hope for. One caveat, one, you ain't got 4 times, so don't lie. But 2, I want this to be the hopes that you tried to bury because you thought it wasn't realistic. 2026, I'm going on a world tour for Heart Talks. When I left home at 16 to go live under a bridge, there's no way you could have told me that existed in me. There's things in you that exist and you don't even know how to call them by name yet. But it means that you have to push past what you think you're not. You have to push past all of the exes that you think make you unqualified. You have to push past everybody who don't believe in you. And if it means go by myself, I'll go by myself. But today, bringing it out of your mouth makes it real. So I don't want the cute stuff. Go to your soul and ask your soul, what are we hoping for? And what am I willing to bring back to life because I keep trying to kill it and it keeps following me around because maybe that's who I'm supposed to be. Before I accepted that I was a speaker, I would dream about speaking and I would hear that voice in my head and I would wake up and I would say, who is that? Because I didn't even accept that I was a speaker yet. So now, the call that I have for you is to turn to your partner and tell them from your soul, what is it that you hope for? Go. How we feeling? How we feeling? How we feeling? Very good. I see y'all still talking. All right, everybody on me. Turn to your partner and tell him, thank you for trusting me. When somebody hands you their hope, they trust you. I think we got mascara in the back. All right, ladies, on me, on me. Everybody say hey. Say ho. Say hey. 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 Y'all didn't do the Temptations version. I was waiting. How we feeling? Take a deep breath with me. This is why I love my job. I want you to know that healing in community is possible. And hiding your scars, hiding your fears, it don't get you nowhere but to the psych hospital. And there are people who can handle all versions of you. Trust that. So I hope I have prepared you guys to walk with your head high as we elevate in 2026. Thank you again to the organizers of the event. You guys have been amazing. If you are going to go higher this year, shout to me, elevate. 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 I wish you guys all the best, Jamaica, and I'll be back soon. Have a good one.